Country and nation are two words that get used more or less interchangeably with one another. In example, if you're talking about somewhere like Japan, you could refer to it as being a country or a nation, and no one would really argue with you, as the two words in this day and age more or less mean the exact same thing. But then again, it seems odd that we would have two words for this singular idea. Well, it turns out that these two words might not be as synonymous with one another as we may think. The country and nation really mean the same thing. But before we really delve into this, did you know that it's highly likely your personal information is all over the internet? And I'm not just talking about your social media. I mean things like your phone number, email address, and even your actual address can be found pretty easily online. It can be found in online directories, people's search sites, and even commercial databases. Seriously, I'm not kidding. I thought it sounded unlikely, but after a quick search, I found myself, as well as my family members, and our old home address on some random website. It was really freaky and I wanted that info gone ASAP. Thankfully, this is where today's sponsor of Incogni came to the rescue. Incogni is a service which tracks down and removes your personal information from these kinds of sites. It's an incredibly simple process, and Incogni has hundreds of data brokers registered in their systems that they automatically search for your info in and delete it when they spot it. And for any sites not already in their systems, you can use their custom removal feature to take down almost everything that's exposed about you online. Just send them a link and your dedicated privacy expert will handle everything else. Incogni can really help you pretty much wipe yourself entirely from the internet. Incogni really is one of those services I didn't know I needed in my life, and I'm really happy to have them as a sponsor here on the channel. Incogni are offering Name Explain viewers an incredible 60% discount on their services. Simply visit incogni.com/Name Explain, which we linked down below. Thank you once again to Incogni for sponsoring today's video. As we were saying, it turns out that country and nation are not as interchangeable as many of us may presume. A great place to start with looking into the differences in these words is with their etymologies. Country is a really interesting word. Its origins lie with Latin, and to begin with, it was kind of used to mean anywhere that isn't where you are based. The term has its roots in the Latin word of contra, meaning opposite or against. We still hear contra used in this sense to this day, and it's the foundation of other words like counter and contrary. This Latin word of contra became contrata, meaning land lying opposite. As mentioned, the word was first used to mean land away from where you are and not part of where you live. But as time went on, the word and its meaning evolved, becoming contrôle in Old French, where it simply meant region or district. The earliest evidence we have of the word in English comes from 1300 AD, where it was spelt contrôle. It was by the late 17th century that we finally find the word in English with its modern spelling. It's also worth mentioning that country as a word has gained more vague meanings too. Country is often used to refer to less urban areas, aka the countryside or just the country. It's also from here that the music genre of country got its name too, as it's linked with these more remote areas. Also, specific areas of a country sometimes get referred to as the something country too, like how here in the UK we have the Black Country, and how parts of states like Florida or Louisiana are referred to as Gator Country or something. Nation, meanwhile, has a fairly different origin. It has its origins with the Latin word of nationem, which means birth or origin, or more broadly a race of people or tribe. This comes from their older word of natus, meaning to be born. This once again entered Old French, where it became nation, where it meant a similar thing, and once again, in that same year of 1300 AD, it entered English, where it was spelt nations. However, it received its current spelling in English much earlier than country did, as we see it spelt like this today in exactly 600 AD. The etymologies of these words alone should start to give us a clear understanding on the differences in these words. One relates more directly to an area of land, while the other relates more to the birth and origin of the peoples themselves. And that's exactly what the key difference is between these two words. Technically, country is the word we use for an area of land, specifically one that is seen as a political unit with borders and a government and all those trimmings. Nation, however, links more with people, those who share a common ethnicity or things like a language or identity. When you find this out, you realise that there's actually quite a large difference between these two things. So let's once again go and look at some examples of these things. So, what exactly can we call a country? Well, pretty much everywhere we see on a world map. If it has borders and a flag and all that kind of stuff, then it's a country, like Japan as we mentioned, but also places like France, Argentina, Cambodia, Canada, Uganda, and pretty much everywhere else we call a country is technically a country. So, what's an example of a nation then? Well, once again, I point to places such as Japan, as well as France, Argentina, Cambodia, Canada, Uganda, and pretty much all other countries. As mentioned, a nation technically means a group of people who share a common identity of some kind. And in most cases, countries consist of a nation of people. Like the country of Japan is home to the nation of Japanese people. France is home to the nation of French people, and so on. This is why today these terms are used so interchangeably. Most modern countries are home to a single nation, or had their origins in a single nation before other people migrated and moved to them. But even today, people with their origins in other countries or nations often become part of the nation of their new home/country. This can be seen in multiple ways. Take an example of people from African nations who migrated to live in France. Over time, they and their descendants might feel like they are part of the French national identity, as opposed to people from other nations living in a different country. It can even be seen happening on a larger scale too. Take a country with its origins in the age of colonization like Brazil. The country as we know it today started life as a Portuguese colony, meaning that most of its initial inhabitants were Portuguese nationals, but over the years and generations, this formed into a unique Brazilian nationality. That's incredibly broad strokes, of course. There's obviously way more minutiae to it all, but I hope you understand what I mean by this. But what this means is that pretty much every country is also a nation. But are there cases of a nation not being a country? Well, of course there is. There are many examples of groups of people, aka a nation, that lack a formal official country. A great example is with the Kurds or the Kurdish people. This is an ethnic group who speak the Indo-Iranian language of Kurdish. There is a part of the world which is considered their homeland, Kurdistan, but you won't find it on an atlas or Google Maps. Instead, the region which equates to Kurdistan is found across the West Asian nations of Iran, Turkey, Iraq, and Syria. Kurdistan is a prime example of a land area which is a nation, as it's home to a collection of people with a group identity, but not a country, as it doesn't have official status as one or anything like that. Another great example can be found within the United States of America. Like Brazil, this is another country founded on migration, but of course people lived in this land way before Europeans arrived. Today, the indigenous people of the land still live here, but more often than not in smaller pockets called reservations. This is best seen in the Cherokee Nation found in Oklahoma. This is an area of land where the Cherokee people live together with a single national identity, like it literally has nation in its name. Cherokee Nation, however, isn't a country. While it has some autonomy over itself and things like its own flag, it's not a fully fledged country like Germany or Vietnam is. Like, Cherokee Nation doesn't have a seat at the UN or anything. This also explains to us why the natives of the land are known as First Nation people, as opposed to First Country people or anything. One day I will make that video all about the various names for Native Americans, I promise. These examples of nations from Asia and across the Atlantic, but in reality there's a prime example of a nation a lot closer to home for me. In fact, I'm literally sitting in a nation right now. The four areas which compose the United Kingdom, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and England, are prime examples of nations. They're even often referred to as the home nations. They are prime examples of nations as each one houses a group of people who share a single identity and even have things like their own flags and languages. They, however, are not official countries in the technical use of the word. Instead, they're all part of the single country of the United Kingdom, which is seen as a proper country. The UK is often referred to as a country made up of countries. I've probably used this term before, but a more fitting term would be a country made up of nations. And yes, I know I'm going to annoy a lot of Scottish, Welsh, Northern Irish, and even English people by saying that these places aren't countries, but I'm talking on technicalities here. If you're annoyed about this, then please go leave me a comment down below. The YouTube algorithm will greatly appreciate the engagement. These examples have been nations which still have some area of land to call home, but we can actually take things a step further. There are nations, as in a group of people who share an identity, who do not have a single area of land. These groups of people are referred to as stateless nations. Quick tangent, but this also brings a third word into this whole equation: state. State pretty much means the exact same thing as country, but is often used in more political contexts. Anyway, stateless nations are exactly what they sound like, a nation of people without a defined landmass. A prime example of this has to be of the Romani people. Romani people can be found literally all across the world and often go by another name which I'm not honestly sure how appropriate it is to say anymore. It starts with a G and I'm sure you've heard it before. I've read multiple sources and some say it's okay while others say it's derogative, so I'm going to refrain from saying it here. But nonetheless, the Romani people all share a national identity and things like a language, but lack one specific area of land to call home. This is due to the fact they're traditionally nomadic people. To me, the Romani are the best example of a stateless nation, but there are other ones too. The Tamil people are often seen as being a stateless nation too, due to the fact they don't really have one defined homeland, as are the Yoruba people. These examples, however, do have more concentrated pockets of land linked with them. For the Tamils, it's South India and northern Sri Lanka, and to the Yoruba, it's the land in and around Nigeria. But these aren't anywhere near as defined as places like Wales or Kurdistan or the Cherokee Nation. This really shows us that not every nation is a country. But can this go the other way around? Can there be a country that isn't a nation? To find an answer for this, we would have to find an area of land that is considered an official country, but lacks a group of people with a single identity or was founded by one. What we need is a country founded and full of people from other nationalities. We do kind of have this as mentioned with somewhere like Brazil, but since the country's inception, that unique Brazilian identity is formed. This could also apply to somewhere like the United States too. Part of me is tempted to poke the bear and declare that the US is a country without a nation, but despite how different each of its states and ethnicities can be at a time, I do feel a singular US nationality has emerged since the country was founded. But then again, this is the United States, and as mentioned, state is really just another word for country. With this in mind, we could see the US as a country made up of countries, aka states, and each of their states have their own nation. But also, like I said, there really is a unique American national identity too that cannot be denied. If anything, I would say my home country of the UK is closer to being a country without a nation. Well, it lacks one single nation anyway, but instead 4 nations/national identities. Though it could be argued that there also is one singular UK nation too, but in all honesty, we are delving into that whole national identity crisis that the UK and England specifically faces, which is a whole thing at the time of recording this, and I can't be bothered to go into it. Go read How Britain Ends by Gavin Esler to understand what's going on here at the moment. Those silly musings aside, I think the closest we get to a true country without a nation is somewhere like the Vatican City. This is a tiny country that doesn't really have any natives in the land, instead being made up of people from other countries who live there, those other people being the Pope and his cronies. The Vatican is probably the closest we get to a country without a nation, but if you can think of somewhere else, please do let me know down below. Though maybe I'm being a tad too pedantic in all of this. While yes, technically a country and nation aren't the same thing, they clearly have a huge degree of overlap, and in most cases, you can refer to one as the other and no one is really going to be too annoyed. So, are a country and a nation the same thing? Well, yes. And no. And once again, a huge thank you to Incogni for sponsoring today's video. Go visit incogni.com/nameexplain and start using their amazing services with that incredible 60% discount they are offering viewers of Name Explain. Name Explain depends on viewers like yourself supporting the channel financially on Patreon, so a huge thank you to everyone who does. Donating just $1 a month helps the channel amazingly and gets you bonuses including ad-free videos, exclusive content, the power to request ideas to be made into actual Name Explain videos, and your name at the end of the video with all these awesome people. Visit patreon.com/nameexplain or click the link down below to find out how you too can support the channel. Thank you. Thanks for reaching the end of the video. Why not watch another and subscribe to keep up to date on all things Name Explain. You can find myself on Instagram where I'm NameExplainYT and join the Facebook group Friends of Name Explain to talk with myself and other name nerds. All that will be linked down below. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and once again, thank you all so much.